Hello everybody, I hope you're all well and having a good week. This week I thought I'd have a go at making paper clay. So to start off, you get your paper, shred it and put it into a bowl with some hot water. Leave it to soak overnight. Once that's soaked overnight, it'll be nice and mushy, and you can either put it in a blender or, as I've done, mash it with a fork. Now a blender works better, but I don't have a blender, so I've just had to mash mine with a fork. Once it's been mashed, you then put some of the pulp into a piece of material and strain out the excess water. This is to ensure that it's not too wet for when you start to add the other ingredients. So here I'm just squeezing out some of the excess water and putting it aside and just carrying on squeezing out. It takes quite a while to do this, unless you want to squeeze it all into one go, which you could do, I suppose, but I didn't. So the next step, once you've squeezed out all of the water, is to get your dried up pulp and add some salt. This just helps it to last a little bit longer and not go off. And then you add flour, just plain flour. I also added a teaspoon of oil, just to see if that helps bind it a little bit more. There are lots of methods of making paper clay. This is just one I was trying because I had all the ingredients already at hand. So then you just add your flour. You might need to add a little bit of water just to get it all to mix well, because you don't want it to be too dry, because then the paper won't stick together. And then you just give it a really good mix. I started off mixing it with a fork and then just went in with my hands and just started to knead it like dough until I got the consistency I want. And as I say, you might need to add a little bit of water just to help it stick together. You'll find that if you don't use a blender, your paper might not be as pulpy as you need it. I found once I'd made this that the paper clay wasn't really sticking together very well, so I couldn't really do an awful lot with it, so I had to keep adding more and more water to make it stick together better. But I think it was because of the size of my pulp. So if I do this again, I'll try and mash it together a little bit more. When I make paper and I want to make a pulp, I put all of the paper into a bottle with a couple of stones or a couple of marbles and shake it, and that seems to work like a blender. But I didn't do this time because I wasn't quite sure whether I needed to, but I think next time that's what I'll do. So you just keep adding flour and a little bit of water as you need to until you get the consistency that you want. So here we have the finished ball of clay. And now I'm just going to put it into an airtight container until I want to use it. And it should last for a few days, maybe even longer.